Hello and welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo Resilience Show. To bend like bamboo is to master change with flexibility. And on the show, I get to interview very special guests talking about all things resilience. And today I'm very excited to introduce to you all a dear friend of mine and an amazing guy, Mark Heggart. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for the lovely intro, Amanda.
I couldn't help it, but let me introduce you properly. So Mark is an experienced leader who has successfully created profitable businesses, helping others to achieve their dreams and visions. He is a media commentator for Blockchain and Philanthropic Solutions. Did I say that right?
Philanthropic.
Philanthropic, I knew I'd get it wrong. Philanthropic Solutions, investor, speaker, and futurist. Mark is the CEO and visionary of the Myubi
Foundation.
Foundation, a private non-for-profit delivering a cryptocurrency daily basic income to the world's poor. Mark loves to help leaders to transform blockages. He is a skilled trainer in leadership development, and Mark is a keen advocate of hypnosis and mesmerism. So, Mark has also created companies that help to empower global audio distribution problems, event management. He has run shows. He's in metadata production, ringtones, and online content creation. So that's how we met back in the day, probably 20 years ago, when we were both in the music industry.
True. Yeah.
Does that all sound right?
Yes.
Gosh, you've done a lot. You're doing a lot still. Of course you are. You're Mark.
Thank you, Amanda.
So tell me all about, before we dive into resilience, tell me all about this wonderful new company of yours.
Myubi. Well, thanks, Amanda. Myubi came as a visionary moment, diving with my son on a boat.
Yeah.
And I'd previously been burnt as an entrepreneur in the blockchain and Bitcoin space, and I just said never again. But it was a bit like a bolt out of the blue, a lightning bolt from heaven, said, okay, work it in the positive, do something fantastic. And that's when Myubi was born, to deliver a cryptocurrency basic income to the world's poor.
Amazing.
So 3 years ago, yeah. And been working very hard on it since then, and many overseas trips. And we're now, since the end of March this year, when we finally got all the tech and all the solutions right, we launched it out to the people, and we've got I think it's over 5,500 people living off it daily now, and we've built the system to go very viral up to 100 million. So 100 million people getting a small amount per day for 20 years.
Wow.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
How did you do it? Like, what, if you could explain the business model on a napkin, like what would you say?
Well, you've got your phone, you download the app and you click the claim and it comes through. On the other side, it's a technical, obviously. We had to develop our own blockchain and all the solutions for the delivery and the payment and everything. And then very simply, for a napkin version, we have a trading price on exchanges. So our cryptocurrency is listed on exchanges and people trade that. That creates a price, which we then download to people, and they actually can trade it with themselves. We'll be adding shops and things overseas to do it more as it matures, but then they basically just go straight to the exchanges and exchange it for Bitcoin or US dollars.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
And how many, how big is your community at the moment?
Our community, so that's right. So it's 5,500 people who've actually using it now. We've got, I think, 725,000 social media followers.
Wow.
Yes. And I'm just keeping that very, not trying to grow too much just over the next 6 months as we, so this is it's a new product, especially like this is government work almost, but we're in the space of where banks and governments and NGOs have failed to deliver right to the people who need it, without judgment. It's their finance. They can spend it how they need to, and and judge it best, rather than, okay, we're going to give you tents, or we're going to give you fishing rods here or there, and there you go. Our way of thinking for humanity is to trust people to do what's best for them.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful.
Yes.
And you've managed to turn more than lemons into lemonade, obviously. Yeah. So you had a bad experience yourself, and then you decided to create Myubi, which is not only, earning money as a wonderful business, but it's helping people.
Absolutely, yes.
Which is clearly your vision.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive in. Amazing, Mark. What does resilience mean to you?
Resilience. Well, firstly, this is it. No one's coming. Our training when we were young was always to be told by a teacher, our parents, and support from friends. But resilience to me is right down as you transform and you shed the attachments and everything around you, is you come down to that black pit of despair.
Yep.
That many people go to, and not shirking from that, and actually allowing it. Many people resist that particular moment.
Absolutely.
And in many ways, like, it's not an easy place to be, because there's tears and you are all alone. No one is coming. And just sinking through that feeling, or as if I quote the Bible for the moment, as I work through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. That particular moment is in your greatest fears and accepting them and not resisting, and just moving through with faith, faith that it'll be fine, or faith that there is something different on the other side, even though you don't know what it is yet, and you haven't got any result, but it's in that letting go.
No one can help you in that black pit. It's like they're not really supposed to either. We want to feel like we're constantly supported like that, but there are times, I totally agree, when you hit rock bottom, it's like no one can really save you. That is really a time for you to emerge, and you have to feel that rock bottom for you to find the catalyst within you to move forward, and that's how you discover what you're made of.
Yes.
Yes.
And I feel that actually black pit never leaves. The moment of on the other side of it, it's having a relationship with the word faith again comes out, that you haven't got any evidence to say that you are going to succeed. Like, you just day by day walk into the space knowing that it's going to happen and the results are coming right now. Just have the faith, take the actions, and let go of the fear.
I love it. And you have to believe that it's going to happen, don't you?
Absolutely.
And you have to act. You can't just sit back going, I believe.
Yes,
it doesn't work like that.
And if I may add one other thing, to feel the result of the win in the moment right now before it's even done.
Yes. I love that.
What does it feel like to have that amazing victory right now in the present, in your heart, in your whole body, as in your mind, knowing it's already done, and you're taking the actions to make that happen right now.
Because that's how you create it, by thinking it, embodying it, believing it. The vision needs to be there too. And this is for business as well. You need to have a clear vision of where you're going. Otherwise, you're just sort of scrambling everywhere, aren't you?
That's right. I think anywhere in life that any of the viewers are battling with, any result that hasn't shown up is because those three things haven't occurred yet. Do you really feel the victory already?
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you're not able to step into and create and manifest that, there's often still things to work through of what's holding you back. And it's typically fears of not being enough, not feeling ready, not letting go of something that's important, that's required for you to move forward even more. There's just more work to be done. And there's that moment where you feel like you've finally released all the anchors, where you can then lean into the uncertainty of the black abyss, jump, and then maybe you'll fly, maybe you'll fall, but what if you fly? I love that quote.
That's true, yes.
So can we hear from you about a story or two of how something you've been through, perhaps personally, perhaps professionally, where you've gone through something that you've needed to transform?
Absolutely, yes. Well, a little bit of a pre-story to it. So we all have our stories, not to give it too much power, but adoption and certain things that weren't great happening early on in my life. Really was my version of low self-esteem. And on the other side, I remember my parents very young saying, "Oh, you're adopted, you're special," and they were very nervous saying this to a 4 or 5-year-old. So they and I was a bit of a thinker back then, and I thought, oh, something's up here. They're saying I'm special. Why are they nervous? Oh, tick tock in my brain. I'm not special. So then I started to develop a personality that had to be special. And part of that was I remember getting a little toy guitar and running around my parents' dining table at a party one night, completely stark naked with a guitar going, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
And
can't
they
imagine
loved
you
it.
doing that.
and all the guests thought that was hilarious. But the neurons started to form of music, nakedness.
I have to explain to the viewers, it's not because Mark and I have danced around naked together before. It's because my twin sister Nicole and I used to sing and write our own music, and Mark was one of our very special producers that we worked with, and we had so much fun down in Bry recording music, and we just had a lot of fun together. And I just had a chin wag because there was some, we just got up to so much fun, and I just remember we were always laughing and dancing and then writing music where we could, but really that silliness in you when you explained I was running, strumming my guitar naked. I'm like, I can't imagine you doing that, but I totally can, because it's just your personality. You're just your free spirit. I love it. I think
thank you. Well,
special about you, but I just wanted to explain.
Yes. Well, so that was, and so it started the habit of trying to be special.
Yeah.
As a result of deeply feeling that you weren't special.
Yes.
Started to form. And
that's what I call your inner conflict. Sorry to interrupt. Started to brew. What you believe versus your goals of what you think you want. There's a conflict there.
That's right. Of course, it's a giant story, but a young child doesn't know that and starts to believe that it was true.
Yeah.
So so fast forward many years, and as being a recording artist and a producer, and I remember, and with my age group, I really did fall in love with 80s music at the time and lived through it. And all of these bands had amazing hair. Oh, it was the hair bands and the glam rock and all of it. And God, I just wanted to look like David Bowie, but
yeah.
and then with well, I actually started to lose my hair in my early 20s, and just absolutely, I felt so bad to start with, and then to have this, and oh my God, I am going to be unlovable.
Yeah.
And so I tried various things, ended up doing one of those stupid advanced hair procedures with hair glued in your hair for years, and it was just a deep inner shame of not being enough. That was, and covering that up daily, actually, absolutely daily.
It would have been exhausting.
Yeah, it was affecting relationships, and and not being able to even look people in the eye. I'm looking in your eye here, but I've got to look in the camera.
No, I'm doing the same thing.
And so, and then with recording studio changing.
You had a very famous band. What was the name of the band in the 80s you were in?
No, it wasn't a famous band at all. No,
it totally was.
No, nice try. As I'm talking about truth here, but life started to go there. Everything that I'd created falsely had started to crumble down. And I remember having my studio go very bad. Relationship ended after 4.5 years for somebody I loved, and that was dramas in itself. And then I couldn't get out of bed for 2 or 3 weeks it was more than a flu. I'd certainly be testing positive for COVID in these days for that one. But my body was aching. And it was really at that point where I was, you know, in quiet moments, you're contemplating about ending it, actually.
Yeah.
But I chose to actually I said, no, I'm going to move forward. So I went and did some transformational courses, loved it, continued on and did many, became a coach and a facilitator, and on this rather advanced one that goes for 2 years on entrepreneurial and team management and leadership.
Cool.
I have to be the leader of the Melbourne Centre at the time for this particular course, and it's all about this. These are people that have got some transformation, right? And you've got how much of a-hole you are and how you dominate people, and or how, passive aggressive if you're that kind of way, and all these particular ways. How to speak to people to make them feel empowered rather than the usual ways.
Condescending way, yeah.
Yes, and how teachers really come from leadership telling you down, where this was changing it for leadership up. And at this time, we were not effective in our promises. So we play these projects out, these games, and we give our word to create them and win with them within just a 3 months time frame. So you might say, I'm going to run a great event, have 500 people show up in the Botanical Gardens, and it might be next week within COVID lockdown, and you go, well, you've got to do it, okay? And that's the sort of the pressure you feel, but you transcend and transform through that. So here's me leading, and nobody's transforming their stuff, their deep stuff. But here's me with that crap glued onto my head, right? Saying, so I am the ultimate hypocritical leader here. I'm asking you to really go deep and change the stuff that I didn't. So
yeah.
What was funny enough at that time is I still, in some point, to be truthful, couldn't do it for myself, but because there was something greater operating when a community was at stake and you had to do something for the community. So that's quite interesting. So I ended up, a mate came over. He gave me a little bit of confidence because he'd actually done the same thing, and we shaved my head, then went to the Peninsula Hot Springs and at night, and just went in the hot springs and came back, and the next day I've woken up and it's like, oh my God, what have I done? Right? Because I'm right in the fear of doing this. Because
it would have been huge.
I was unlovable, and I had to go back to, and what did unlovable mean? Well, for me, it meant adoption, not, totally discarding and that physical separation in utero as the mother's getting ready to give you away. All right, so it did run deep, and I'm good friends with my biological mother now, but at that time I was like, oh God, what am I going to do?
Yeah,
and all those and being in the music industry at the time, and it was just, boy, it was a lot of fear.
Yeah.
All self-created because, and so anyway, shaved the head, and then for a few weeks, it was like a freshly shaven lamb, just pasty white. Who the hell is this person?
It would have been a whole new identity to be confronted with.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and so I had to create
a new
the
version
truth
of yourself. Yeah. How did you do that?
Who I am.
How did you do it?
Well, with a little bit of time, but just noticing who you are and just dropping the fear and just being authentic.
Yeah. Oh, I love your head shaved. I think it suits you. I like it.
Oh, yeah, thank you. It's funny because I thought I was unlovable with that hair, but the truth was it was totally manufactured and created fear.
I totally understand. I relate. I felt unlovable for a long time after I was diagnosed with MS. Who would want me? It's all the, issues that you face and your identity is attached to, But once I started to change my mind about that, and I believed that it didn't matter, just automatically everyone around me felt the same.
Yes.
You have to believe it first, don't you?
Yes. And the funny part about your own shame is everybody knows what's going on, and you hide away from it and don't worry. But really, we're often the last to come to terms with who we are. Everybody else can see who we are if we're hiding stuff, or if we're, in fear, can't look people in the eye, being inauthentic. Everybody knows it. We know it. We just don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I did that, and yeah, it was very interesting, and so the good part about it from a business side was that my leadership for these people was great, and they really started to transform some deep stuff. And
because they felt the authenticity within you.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leading from that space, and because you're vibrating at that level of authenticity, they start to naturally, on the law of vibration, they'll start to
They
vibrate
did too.
at that too. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And so, having gone through that, how do you think your life is better now?
Well, actually, your preparation time in the morning is not existent. You're right. I was like,
Up.
done. Actually, the wind in your hair, head massages are amazing. But you often don't think of it. Actually, one of your, what's the word I'm looking for here? Your fear of looking in the mirror and making sure that you're looking okay is greatly diminished.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you think that learning how to find that authenticity within you and living from that space, how is your life better because of that?
Well, there's many great things that have happened and many transformations that have happened. So a lot of the freedom with it, it's not so much, the financial side is much better. You're a lot free with people. Your relationships are a lot truer. You're not coming from fear and hiding stuff.
Right. And your relationship with yourself, I suspect, would be deeply much more peaceful.
Yes. And the ability to tell the truth in a relationship of anything what's going on, because you've dealt with some of the biggest things that you're feared with in your life.
Yeah.
And it's like you can be absolutely true and go to any place with in a conversation with what you're trying to create, or if it's trying to calm down annoyance with people.
Yeah, I totally agree. Once you lift a big barrier within yourself, it translates into everything around you and how you interact with the people around you. And yeah, it really translates across. So something might have been holding you back your whole life. And I'm even thinking about something for myself in this regard. And then once you've worked through it and you've shined light on it and there's awareness now, and then you really work through it and you transform it, you realize how you've been doing the same thing in so many other things around you.
Yes.
And how you show up, the decisions that you make, how you interact, your words, and how you're holding yourself back. And it's so amazing when that lifts and you start to enjoy the fruits of your labor of working through that. And you find everything feels like it's opening up for you. Oh, well, everything becomes effortless, but that's just because you've unblocked so many blocks. It's not just one. It ricochets out, doesn't it?
Yes. The gift you give to other people, because you've given yourself compassion and you've granted yourself self-love in any given moment.
Yeah.
That when other people are needing help and you need to shine a light, say if you're coaching somebody or providing assistance to them, you can take them deep into the shadow self, where if it was somebody who hadn't done that, there would be that instant reaction and tension.
Yeah.
You can take them down there and just allow them some safety to be the observer of what's really going on in them.
Yeah.
And to bring them up, with an illuminated mindset.
Well, do you think having gone through this helped you to create Myubi?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The person before transformation was just worried about getting money and getting laid,
Yeah.
basically.
All the ego, all the
Where,
ego stuff, all the instant gratification.
yes, yes, and very much in survival.
Yes,
And,
that's
and
key.
yeah, yeah, and it's funny how it's, you know, and now the project is almost the reverse of that, is to give out life, is to, you know, create an economy that is brand new for people to just have that sense of dignity, to not being in surviving, and to not
Yeah.
worry about where the next meal is going to come from.
Yeah.
And I know we're doing it tough in certain areas in the West at the moment, but there's 700 million people on the planet who live on less than $1.90 a day. And that's
Yeah.
probably gone up at least maybe 200 million over this year because of certain area.
Yeah.
Mothers are selling their kids
Yeah.
for not a lot of money, and it's not about what the mother gets. It's because at least that child, even though they're going into prostitution, will have food, a roof over their heads, and some medical.
Yeah.
Maybe a shortened life, but you know, it's money. But imagine being given those particular circumstances for life and say, deal with it.
Yeah, it would be very difficult.
And then we're worried. It's me just worried about, oh my God, I lost my hair a bit early. Like,
Yeah.
that's about, come on, get real with it.
Yeah. 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 I love it. So I'm a huge promoter of that survival program versus growth and repair. And when we can get ourselves out of survival, we make very different decisions. And we can show up in the world in such a more truthful and authentic way. And that is really when things open up for us. So I agree, like the best thing anyone can do for themselves, in any way you can, get yourself out of survival. And we are responsible for doing that for ourselves. No one else is supposed to do that for us.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The first thing, and you go to yoga, is just like simple breathing. Rule number one, don't forget to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And we forget.
Yes.
What's the biggest thing you've learned through all of that? If you were to name one thing, like what's the biggest thing that you want to share that you learned in that transformation?
Oh, there's so many.
Your favorite one?
I love, I do to in the expression of this one. So self-love, everybody's trying to get it. You know, it's not a destination. It's something you give yourself in the moment. It's a gift you give yourself in the moment for self-love.
I love it.
And then after surviving, and you just, you know, you've got enough. And I've for a few years I've had enough. And then what after that?
Yes. What after that?
What after that? That's right. So when all is transformed in the self, there is only making a difference.
Yes,
Your
correct.
experience out there of, you know, of seeing others light up.
Contribution to the community, how else you can help.
Even just patting your dog and seeing how you light up your dog.
I know you've got a new puppy.
Yes, yes. And then even being so, we'll go back to resilient. And so, you know, with our project for these 5,500 people at the moment who are living on this particular thing daily, right, is we're getting a lot of scammers as well. Now, these people are just caught in survival.
Yes.
And so rather than being in the reaction to that, and some days I'm like, oh, and some days it actually costs me quite a lot to having to deal with these scammers, right?
Yeah.
But I'm committed to something greater, and I won't shirk from that because it's a couple of rough days.
Yeah.
Be it financially, emotionally, or anything. You kick on. And transformation, the other thing is transformation is sometimes love and light, but real transformation is a shitty gig, I must say. Sometimes it is,
oh yeah,
you know, a deep level of responsibility and playing out in the field where It's an amazing project, and it's so like you have to deal with the absolute antithesis of that at the state of humanity, to be okay with humanity's darkest shadows.
Yeah.
And not react to it.
Yeah. And yeah,
That part. And just look at the look at other people. I remember one day was driving down when I was living in Melbourne. I had to coach this lady in his family. It was very much dysfunctional. There was sexual abuse and all sorts of stuff happening, and they basically needed some calmness and some peace, which is in a war zone. There were many different government organisations involved in helping them in other areas, but the core of the emotional area was very dark, and I got to make a difference to those people because I had gone deep within myself and just thought about all the levels of humanity everywhere, of how nasty and toxic things can be.
Yeah. And
just not that I've done that, but to own it in yourself, because you do see it. It's like the core of Ho'oponopono. But and I think that one is one of the fastest paths to transformation on many levels is to write a list of what you hate about other people.
Yeah.
And then look at that list and understand that whose mind has created that list.
Well, it's usually stuff within yourself that you have to sort of shine light on.
Every part of it. And this is the bit where people go, no. That it's understand that it's in you. Positive or negative charge, it doesn't mean that you have done those dark acts, but if you can't be with them, it might be that you imagine standing in front of the whole world stage and all of those dark things are being said to you and that you're that.
Yeah.
And could your identity, ego, be with that?
Yeah. And you're experiencing it in the form perhaps to transform that.
That's right. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So, that going back for me, it's like, could I stand on the world stage and have the whole world laugh at me going, "You unlovable bald bastard"? It's like, no way. But it's fine now.
I always ask those questions to myself. It's like, oh, this is a challenging situation. And I sit with it and then I ask myself, okay, what is it that I need to understand within myself to see this with fresh eyes and a greater and a higher understanding from that bird's eye perspective rather than from that reactive ground floor perspective. And, it's really important to sit with things, isn't it, before we react, because it changes, it transforms, it moves, it's dynamic.
Yes. And from there, it is paramount that you get out to be making a difference to others so that you don't indulge in that space, because even it's very addictive to be in the transformational space because you're starting to learn, but the focus is still internal. You focus out and make a difference to other people. There's only so many times. You can only be so broken and look at it so many times.
Yeah.
Accept it, go there and make the difference to people, because that's what the world needs. Those world-changing people that are going out and actually doing it.
Doing something. Tell me, what are 3 tips to do that?
Go and help other people straight away. Get after watching this. Turn off the computer.
Do it immediately, every day.
Immediately.
Yeah. Find any way to do it every day.
And listen. And make it so big that you're shaking in your boots.
I love that.
There is a saying, how do you trap a man or a woman? Right? And give them a noble task. So and especially for the trap of transformation is it, and in shadow work, discovering the shadow self further and further, is your task with the noble cause of going within and understanding who you are. but understand that that is a trap.
Yeah. Okay.
So we are consciousness in these 3D bodies. You still must be grounded in doing the physical realm, the physical.
We are in the physical realm. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So play in it. There is a point where it can be anything can be forgiven, including yourself.
Yeah.
Just take the action and look. It's very interesting. If there's still a lot of drama showing up in your life, that might say that it's a good thing to say, well, you could still have a bit more of a look.
Yes,
but if
absolutely.
Things are actually going okay, and you've just got a few ups and downs every now and then don't go too hard on yourself. Get out there and do it.
Get out of your comfort zone every day.
Yes, you're not broken, and nobody is broken.
No. I think forgiving yourself is a huge part of getting out of survival too, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yes.
It's actually a chapter in my book. I inserted a whole forgiveness section into releasing that alarmed state. Yeah. This is so juicy, Mark. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing, what you've been through, or so many golden nuggets of wisdom. God, I wish spending all that time with you, with my sister, and God, we had so much fun when we were making music together. You did Madison Avenue, Don't Call Me Baby. That was yours. What else did you do?
Oh, there was some Human Nature.
There was.
There was a Delirium.
Yes.
Jingle. There's a huge list.
We always kind of go through all the music whenever we catch up. So we need to do another rendezvous session like that. But, so this is all the notes and how you can find Mark will be in the blog, but jump onto myubi.global to check out. That's right, isn't it? .global.
Yeah, that's right. And there's some links there. So if the viewers would like to experience getting a free cryptocurrency, which is what we're delivering in Africa and Asia and Venezuela.
Yes.
You can just simply download and click. It costs you nothing, and you can get to see. And in the future, people would be able to directly sponsor communities abroad with nothing off it. So your $1 here goes straight to $1 to the person anywhere with nothing off it. It's revolutionary.
All right, this is awesome. I'm jumping on board. Okay. Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much, Mark, and for your time today.
Great. Thank you for the time.
That's all right. So guys out there, no matter what it is that you are going through, you can overcome it and discover what you are made of. See you next week.